I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Emberheart from Mind Clash. Emberheart is a 2 to 4 player worker placement game that plays out across 5 rounds in which players are going to be collecting dragons and all the various things that help them along the way. You're going to start the game with a bunch of basic workers. These basic workers, they can go anywhere, but the problem is you lose them once you spend them, and you will be spending a lot of workers each round. You see, the game takes 5 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to have 5 placements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that you can spend every single round. On your turn, you're going to take a marker to indicate it's your pool. You'll take a certain number of workers and then put it on that spot to show, hey, I'm going to bid 3 workers over here because I want to go in this spot. Now, the more workers you place, the first access you get. So when we resolve the Dragon Preserve over here, whoever placed the 5 is going to get first pick of these tiles. Keeping in mind, there's only 3 cards to pick from. The good news is most of the time people can't afford to place 5, so that won't happen all that often. It will happen though. So the more workers you place, the earlier access you get at any individual location. The fewer workers you place, the fewer workers you actually spend, which is important in a game where you're going to run out of workers if you're not careful. But you also might not even get anything if you're not careful, because if too many people go to a spot, you won't have an opportunity to resolve it yourself. That's the general arc of how this works. But before we get more into the individual placements, I will say there are also advanced workers in the game. These advanced workers, they have special locations they can go to. For example, the Heroes Guild, the Tavern, and the Poachers Camp can take yellow workers. The Mountain can take the purple workers, and then Preserve and Garrison take the blue workers. These all have official names, but it's easier to follow with colors. So when you get a special worker, which we'll talk about how you get them soon, those workers come back to you each round. So suddenly, if you have a whole bunch of them, you can spend them a little bit more freely, knowing they are not being spent every single round. They're coming right back to you after you use them. That's the good news, with some caveats around how this mountain range works over here. So with that said, let's go to the various locations and talk a bit more about how the game plays. The Heroes Guild over here is going to allow you to get heroes. These are going to give you in-game abilities as well as end-game points when you collect a hero. You are going to be trying to pair them up with the matching color dragons. The way these work over here, you can see the bars match up. You can match a dragon with a hero, and that will activate them there. Over here we have the Tavern. The Tavern is going to be one of the ways in which you can get more of those workers. By going to these locations, you're both going to be moving your flame over here. This is a way to gain or lose points. Or really, technically it's a way to gain points, but it's a little more complicated than that because it's about the difference between your token and another player's token. So you're going to look at the gap at the end of the game, and then players who are more to the left, who are not as burnt, will gain points the more of a gap they have between them and the most to the right player. So when you go here, you're moving your markers to the left or to the right. To the left is good, to the right is bad, and then you're gaining a variety of workers, both temporary and permanent workers. In the Poachers Camp, you have an opportunity to get one of these dragons. They tend to be worth a little less points, but they're a little easier to get your hands on. Then over here in the Mountain's going to be how you can get between 1 to 3 dragons, or I guess between 0 to 3 dragons if people outbid you, because when you go to the Mountain, you're first going to have access to the bottom dragons, then whoever has the most of those purple workers can move up to the next level where 2 players can get the middle dragon, and the most left after that can get the top dragon. Keeping in mind these have extra costs, you're going to lose some of your dragon riders over there. Even though they are permanent in a theoretical sense, capturing dragons is risky, and a few of your people will die along the way. Then down over here on the Preserve, you get one of these spots over here. These are helpful because, again, they pair up with dragons, and when you do so, you have to move your marker on your personal player board, which will give you various bonuses when you place your dragon out. Your dragon effectively goes on top of one of your stacks when you place it out, gaining a benefit depending on which of these columns you're going to activate, which will give you discounts, allow you to move your flame token, or give you more equipment, which is the other way to go ahead and get those specialized workers. Down over here in the Garrison is going to give you these goals you're going for. You're going to be moving up. Whenever you take one of these, you'll move up on the respective track as well, and then you have to have the various goals. You have to have these requirements, whatever's shown down here, and by the way, I actually have the wrong card over there. You should have one of each color here at all times, but you're going to have whatever requirements are shown down here, and then you get the points over there. So those are the areas you can go to. You can go to the Heroes Guild to get heroes, the Tavern, which will give you more workers, the Poachers Camp in the Mountain to get more dragons, the Preserve to give you these areas that will help you boost you up these tracks, which will give you abilities as well as points, and then the Garrison, which will give you points for achieving certain objectives. Lastly, you can also go to the Warehouse and the Fire Station. You can place your token into one of those spots over there in order to get either 2 gear over here, 2 equipment, which again, trading in equipment along with basic workers is one of the ways you can upgrade them, in addition to just getting them straight from the Tavern. and the fire station will give you 4 basic workers and move your flame to the right. As you play this game, you're frequently going to get burnt. As you collect dragons, you'll get burnt. As you go to these spots over here, you'll get burnt. As you go to the fire station, you'll get burnt. The last thing you can do is you can take one of these tokens over here. You can take one of these aids. You can take as many as you want. Generally, in most games I've seen, usually you're going to take 1 a round. Sometimes I've seen people take 2 in a round, but that's going to balance out because the more you take, the fewer placement spots you're going to get. If all players take 1 of these, it's going to balance out that you get all 5 of your placements. If you take more of them, you're not going to get as many placements. There's more of a trade-off there. But these aids over here, they give you different abilities. This one allows you to take back a stack that you already placed, which can be helpful to change your strategy or to get something back when you realize you're no longer going to get rewards, as well as going first next round. This one over here is going to allow you to choose which of these bad things are going to trigger, which at the end of every round, you're going to have something bad happen where players pay a cost based off of certain tiers they've reached. If you know you have more of one tier than another, you can control for what bad thing happens. Over here, this is going to resolve ties on the mountain, as well as giving you a gear. And lastly, this one's going to move 2 to the left on the flame track up there. That's the basic arc of the game. I should note, you don't resolve these as you place, rather everyone places, and when you're done placing, then you resolve the locations going around in order, and ultimately you're trying to balance getting all the things you need, getting the in-game abilities and the end-game points, getting the right workers, getting more dragons in these locations. Dragons are an essential part of a game, which makes sense given what this game is, getting the various dragon preserves and the garrisons, trying to balance all of that, while also trying to move up on these tracks, which will give you abilities, as well as end-game points, and trying to manage your fire, so you don't give somebody else an accidental 20 points for being too burnt while they were not burnt at all. That is how you play Emberheart, which means it's time for my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. Let's start off with what I like, and I usually start with the thing that matters the least, but it's always worth commenting on. The game looks beautiful. The game looks beautiful. Art and illustrated by Andrew Bosley. His art feels like a perfect fit for this world. Again, that is never a good reason to keep a game. It's never a good reason to get a game. It is a good cherry on top. If the game is good, having great art just makes the game better, and the art over here is it feels perfect. I think Andrew Bosley in general, I love his art, and some games feels like a better fit than others. This is one of those games where it feels like a completely natural fit for what the game is and his art style. Past that, the things that matter more, the general puzzle over here of how you augment yourself and how you upgrade is definitely present, because throughout the game, you are choosing between different things that matter. You are choosing between getting heroes early on that will give you abilities. You are choosing between like trading in your workers, my favorite way to play this game every time, and I can't stop. I have a hard time bidding high, knowing that I'm losing those workers. So my favorite thing every time I play this game has been to try to build up my workers into advanced workers as soon as possible. If you can get a stack of those tokens, like I'll give up the first 2 rounds of the game just to have a full supply of advanced workers, knowing I am now free to do what I want. Of course, past losing the workers on the Dragon Mountain over there. But trying to build up your tableau that way, that's another area you can work on. Trying to build up your abilities over here, this is another thing you can do, because you'll get extra workers or extra gear or manage your flame better as you move up these tracks. And so trying to get a bunch of preserves and goals early on, there's so many different ways you can try to figure out which thing you need to do to try to build up your tableau as you play, and they are all challenging. Trying to figure out where other players are going to bid, looking at their workers, looking at other players' camps over here, at their workers of what they have, is a big part of the game. As I try to figure out whether it's better to go to the 3 or the 4 in this spot, knowing what you have access to and what you are most likely to bid on, based on that, it's a little extra work to pay that at that level of attention, but if you do so, you can effectively control for, okay, great, well, I see that you have no more of those, or you only have 3 workers left, therefore, I'm safe to go to a 3 spot because you can't outbid me. You'd have to, or alternatively, you could outbid me, but you'd have to go to the fire station first to get extra workers, and that just means you're giving up 2 turns to outbid me. That trade-off, that risk is worth it. And so making those decisions about how the other players are doing as you work towards your tableau is a big part of it. Building up your dragons over here, building up a giant pool of dragons is fun visually while also being important for the points. You're trying to balance all these things. And again, I think my favorite area is probably the abilities on the Heroes Guild, because that's the biggest area I want to say of replayability to the way you're going to engage with the game, because different players, and there's a large stack, by the way, I should say over here, there's a large stack of heroes, but all of these, well, that's whatever, there's these over here, but these stack of heroes, these are all going to give you a lot of different abilities, and those will really change the way you play the game, because having something that rewards you for having more preserves is going to affect how you strategize, and so you're going to, these are the biggest replayability while also being powers and abilities, which I generally enjoy. As far as things I don't like in the game, there's two main things. One is fixable, but it is worth commenting on, which is halfway through our first game, I kind of realized that there's no penalty for being at the top of a track. If you get your token to the top of the burnt track and you have to pay a burnt cost, you simply do the thing and you just don't get burnt. Meaning it's not a cost you pay, it's something you do, and you can do it even when you're at the top. This was clarified on Board Game Geek. I checked because I wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. I went to Board Game Geek and I found it absolutely clarified that yeah, it's just you can actually go to the top of a track and just it is what it is. But that means if you play that way, then being burnt no longer has a cost for you and you can totally interact with things differently. You can start taking dragons that have being burnt as a cost because you don't care. You can start taking more of these cards without concern for where you are because you don't care. And if you do that, it forces the other players to either lose, I want to say. Alternatively, everyone has to play that way because you're playing at a disadvantage. Which means, to a certain extent, I believe that strategically speaking, it is in your best interest to play this game completely disregarding burnt as a cost and try to do things that make you burnt as often as possible because you may as well go to max to get the maximum mathematical reward for it by just not caring about that as a cost, which will force other players to play that way so that they can be competitive, but you did so first, which means you have a leg up. They did release a variant. So in the rules in that forum post on BGG, there is a variant to address that. It is not the official way to play, it is a variant. I think you should play with that variant because otherwise I think the game is broken. But it's definitely going in the category of things I don't like because as long as it's a variant and not an official rule, I don't love that. It's a fixable issue, but it certainly is an issue. And it took us half a game to figure that out and to validate that. And that's, again, it is a technical complaint because it is fixable. Definitely play with that variant if you can. Outside of that, my bigger complaint, because this is less fixable, is I think that there's not a ton of replayability to what you're doing. I enjoy Emberheart, make no mistake, we'll get more into that in final thoughts, but for me, I talk about how much I like the heroes, and that's an important part because the heroes to me is the biggest thing that changes the way it's the only thing that changes the way I play the game. Outside of that, I'm just going to try to do the thing that I like doing in the game. It is very straightforward, it is fairly repetitive, it is enjoyable, but it's the kind of enjoyable that lasts a few games, not the kind of enjoyable that lasts 5, 10, 15 games. Not all games need to do that, but for me, Emberheart doesn't do that. Even the heroes are the only thing that gives it replayability for a couple of games because at least I'm intrigued by trying to find new combinations. Meaning I really enjoyed my first play of Emberheart, and then I enjoyed my second play of Emberheart because the heroes at least pushed me in a different direction, and I enjoyed my third play of Emberheart because the heroes pushed me in a different direction, but I kind of feel like I've really seen what this game is doing. It is a little bit on the lighter side, which has the plus of being more accessible, more gateway friendly. I think it's very charming, I think it's very rewarding if you compare it to games like Lords of Waterdeep and Stone Age. I think it's falling into that niche very nicely. But for me, I want a little bit more bite in my worker placement games, and Emberheart has lasted me a few games. The replayability is the biggest concern. There's not really complaints about other things that are happening. I guess I can make the argument that the poachers raid over here, that's a small aspect where I don't love losing things, but the game does gamify it, especially with the selection of the aid over here, so that changes. I don't really mind that much. Overall, the biggest thing is just that it's straightforward enough. That is the pro of being accessible and the con of being a little less replayable. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, definitely those poachers raid. Again, I can appreciate how they gamified it so it's not just a bad thing, but if you don't like bad things happening in games, that's certainly present. Additionally, for a game that is this gateway friendly, in terms of the rules, in terms of the charm, in terms of the game length, all of those things, I do think that the fact that you can place workers out and get nothing feels a little tough. It's not the end of the world, especially in a heavier game, but this isn't a heavier. So it's like, it's a lighter weight game that has a degree of you might place something and get nothing. You might place on the 2 thinking it's very reasonable that people are not going to go 3, 4, 5 because that's a lot of workers, and they might go 3, 4, 5. And if you don't get this placement over here, you can't pull those back, and now you just paid 2 for nothing. To be fair, this is a good time to note that when that happens, you do get to get them back at the end of the round, you get a little perk for it, so you don't get nothing, but it certainly is a little like of a not great feeling in a game that, again, for a heavier game, I wouldn't mind it as much. In fact, I don't mind it at all. For a heavier game, I wouldn't even comment on it. Because this is more gateway friendly, I feel that one element feels a bit out of place. It's okay because there's a compensation at least. You don't get nothing out of it. It's just that it's a less ideal spot when you do a nothing turn instead. As far as final thoughts on Emberheart, Emberheart is charming. It is beautiful. It is fun. It's accessible. It's a lighter gateway worker placement game. So if you are looking for that, I think this checks a lot of those boxes. For me, the biggest complaint ultimately does come down to the replayability. That burnt thing, I can get past the burnt thing because there is at least a variant, which is how I would play going forward. But for me, the main issue is that it is a little on the lighter side. side, and that does affect long-term replayability. Overall, I'm going to come in at a 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, if you're looking for another fun, charming game about collecting dragons, check out Dragon Keepers from Cosmos. And if you're looking for something that has a little bit more bite while also staying in the theme of collecting a whole bunch of wondrous creatures, check out a game called Wondrous Creatures. In any case, and until next time, I hope you found this review helpful. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope I said that wrong. In any case, and until next time, I said it wrong again. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. In any case, and until next time, I'm messing up my end over here. How did I do it again? This feels like it's on rotation. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.